What up, though, y'all? It's Chris. Appreciate you connecting with me while I'm out here on the run trying to get things done. It's a great day in the city of Detroit. Got good things happening for us all over, man. I mean, Detroit is in a feel-good state right now. I mean, it usually is. But it's extra right now. If you know, you know. You understand, especially if you hear. But let's get into the topic at hand, man. Y'all girl Tiffany Henyard, it looked like she's out. The mayoral election or primary is taking place in Dolton, and she's been ousted. I mean, Tiffany Henyard, the saga with her was real, man. She's leaving behind quite a legacy, quite a story, quite a history, and not necessarily a positive one. You know, she's considered to be an embattled mayor because of just all of the drama and controversy she's been in. You know, all of the stuff going on with her made national news. Now, you know it's bad when y'all making national news, you know, for stuff like this. I mean, we've been in national news before when it comes to politics, so I get it, and I'm not gonna dive into that. But, you know, I'm just saying that as someone who resides in a city that's been in the spotlight before, national spotlight, because of politics, I can understand what the residents of Dolton were dealing with. And it was a lot. We saw everything unfolding firsthand. We saw Henyard. She was allegedly doing a lot of dirty things. Her expenses on the city, hundreds of thousands of dollars, according to the news reports, things that she just could not explain away, hundreds of thousands of dollars. She would go on these different trips, and she would use her Dolton mayor card for these things that the treasurers and citizens alike believe should have been things that were on her own dime, but the taxpayers were having to fit the bill for. And just, you know, ultimately, and I know this is kind of like beating a dead horse because we say this all the time, but just no accountability. Like she was doing a lot. She was doing things that appeared to be shady. I'm not gonna say they were, but appeared to be shady for all intents and purposes. And she would act like she didn't get why people thought the things that were going on with her looked dirty. She would pretend like everything was on the up and up, and that you were the weird one for suspecting that the fraudulent charges and fraudulent happenings were nefarious. Typical gaslighting tactic that people that's on some BS do. But she couldn't stop there. She also had to play the black card, the woman card, the single mom card. People just don't like her because she's a black woman and a single mom. She's the first woman ever to hold this position and that position, and the first woman ever to hold them at the same time. And I just have to say, because you were the first black woman to ever do this and that, it was even more important that you really stand 10 toes down on doing what you're supposed to do. Because basically your actions kick the ladder down for anybody that's going to come behind you. If there's another black woman in the future, unfortunately for her, immediately Tiffany Henyard is going to come to mind. And that's unfair, because whoever comes after her has nothing to do with this, but they're just going to always be having to fight with the ghost of Tiffany Henyard being in office. Totally unfair, but I get that that's just how people operate. She did some very weird hiring practices in terms of people that she got under her, essentially yes men who were seemingly on the take as well. The different meetings, town halls, or whatever you want to call them, that would happen. She started being disruptive with those. Henyard was doing everything but being a good mayor and most of all a good person. She had that one Tiffany Henyard Foundation that was exposed for being fraudulent. And even though she was promoting it as being her own thing, when she was being held accountable for its activities, she claimed that it was not hers, even though her name was on it. It's someone else's, and they just put her name on it. This wasn't very believable, but that was the story that she was running with. She also had numerous super simps that would platform her, like Roland Martin, who he was just simping hard for. Had her on, asked her softball questions. I mean, first of all, this was a man who was rejecting anything, any ideas of her possibly not being a quality mayor, a sincere person, and just being somebody that's shady. He was rejecting all ideas about this. Then he had her on, and he really didn't hold her accountable for anything. He asked her softball questions, and she sat up there in his face and lied. She used his platform to defend herself, but was just essentially lying, and he gave her that. I personally don't think that Roland Martin is a good voice to listen to in the black community. I don't think he speaks for the black community. I think he's just somebody that happens to have a platform. People listen to him, sure. He has influence, sure. But Roland Martin is not somebody that I ever would consider to be a pillar of the black community, and certainly not speak for the black community. He does not represent how the black community thinks. But he got made a fool of ultimately, because more evidence of her stuff became public. And so now he kind of had egg on his face because he felt silly about how hard he was simping for a woman that just played him and took advantage of him and used him like she seemingly uses anyone else around her. They used an elementary school, I believe, to do this polling, and they said that it was a enormous turnout, or giant turnout, whatever you want to call it. I'm not too surprised by that. And the people have spoken. She's out. It's very important to know who you're voting for, to know who you're voting in. You must vet effectively. I know you won't always get it right, but that doesn't mean stop doing it. We've got a mayoral election coming up here. Mike Duggan, he's been the mayor here in Detroit. A lot of people believe he did a very good job. He overseen some very good things. He made history. He was a write-in. Now that usually doesn't happen. If your name isn't already on the ballot for people to just fill in, you usually have no chance. He was not on there. People had to write him in and to vote for him. And I remember the campaign for it. I remember seeing the billboards all around the city, urging people to write in his name to vote for him. And as long of a shot as that was, as much of a shot in the dark as that was, he did it. So, I mean, that just goes to tell you that it's only crazy till you do it. because many people thought that this was crazy and that it was never going to work. And then it did. It went from being something that was crazy to something that was history. So that just goes to show you, don't let anybody ever tell you what you're capable of, what you can do, what you can't do, what your ceiling is. You decide that. You decide what's possible and what isn't. I've seen some billboards for new mayoral candidates. I'm not really familiar with them, but trust and believe I'm gonna do research and see what's what. I believe Mayor Duggan is going to be running for governor because Big Gretch she won't be able to run again after her current term. So I think that's what he's up to. He's running for governor. But you gotta vote, especially when it comes to the local politics, because these are the people that directly affect what's happening with you. Obviously, the presidential election is important, but I think they underestimate the importance of the local election. And you would think, does the local election, of course that's important, but you'd be surprised how many people don't really participate in what's happening right there in their own city, in their own state. They just kind of let whatever happen. Don't be one of those people. If you have been, now's the time to stop being it. That's okay if you have been up to this point. It's whatever. What's done is done. Don't be that person any longer, though. Learn what's going on. Find out who these people are. Talk to people. Do some research. Everything is possible through Google now. You can find out whatever it is that you want to know. Your phone, that wonderful, powerful smartphone that you have, that supercomputer in your pocket that you're walking around with every day, is good for more than just shit posting on Facebook. Use it to your benefit. I'm gonna leave it there though, y'all. This has been an interesting, seemingly end. I mean, I wouldn't put it past her to not be gone. I think her role in politics, at least right now, is done. But I wouldn't count her out forever, because the one good thing that I can say about Tiffany Henyard is that she is a fighter. She doesn't go down very easy. And those sort of people tend to do well because they have a inflappable will. They have just a unsinkable, personality, and she embodies these things. So she's done for now, I believe, but certainly not for good. I'm gonna leave it there though, y'all. I'll holler at y'all soon. Peace.